Today we will be making a flowering hawthorn branch. Some crepe paper colors you're going to be needing are extra fine and fern, cypress, linen, and espresso. You'll also need double-sided crepe paper in green tea cypress, and then a cardstock crepe paper in sour apple. We'll also be using 24 gauge floral wire. It can be green or white, as we'll be covering it, and then also an 8mm spun cotton ball. Let's get started. First, we'll be making one of the flowers. So you'll need 5 petals, and you can find the template to make these flowers and the leaves all in the post. I cut mine out using a Cricut cutting machine with a rotary blade, but you could also use scissors or another cutting machine that can cut crepe paper. First, we're going to make the stamen. So you'll need the stamen piece and this pink pollen piece. Go ahead and grab your white glue, and I'm going to add white glue to the lower half of this pink pollen. Then going to place the white stamen over the top of the glue. Then I'm going to add more glue to the top half of that pink pollen piece, and I'm going to fold it over the top of the white stamen. Once you've glued that into place, you're going to take your scalloped pinking shears and just cut along the top edge of the pollen. And then just trim off any excess where those crepe paper pieces didn't quite line up. Now I'm going to grab my fringe clip, just place that stamen in the clip, and then grab my detail scissors, and I'm going to fringe all the way down to the clip, and I'm going to fringe very small. Once I've fringed that, I'm going to roll the stamen and pollen in between my fingers. This will help separate it. I'm going to do all these steps while the glue that's holding that pollen on is still tacky. After you've rolled them together, they may be wanting to stick together a bit. You can remove it from the fringe clip. Stretch it out just a little to separate everything. Then you can just kind of pull everything apart so that the pollen doesn't get stuck together, because it can want to kind of clump together in little groups of a few stamen and pollen. When you're done with that, just go ahead and set it up there to dry. And we're going to take a 24 gauge wire. This one's been cut down to 6 inches. And then I'm going to take a strip of the fern crepe paper. I'm going to wrap just the top couple inches of this wire with the fern crepe paper. Now that I've wrapped that, I'm going to let that dry just a little bit. And I'm going to take this cardstock circle here with the hole in the center. And then I'm going to take this felting pad that has a little bit of squish to it, setting it on top, and then taking a small steel ball tool and just moving my steel ball tool in circles around this circle so that it will cup. You can also, instead of using this felting mat, you could do this in the center of your palm. Works as well. Next, you're going to take your stamen and add glue along the base of it. Then take your wire, and with the tip of the wire just below the pollen, go ahead and wrap the stamen around the wire. And then we're going to pull all of the stamen out away from the center. I'm going to take this little circle and add glue to the bottom of it. And with it cupping up, I'm going to slide it over the wire. I like to use my tweezers for this step, and then just gently push it down so that it's sitting right on top of the stamen. You can kind of push the stamen up and around that piece. You want the stamen to really hug that center cardstock circle, just like that. We can set that aside to dry while we shape our petals. For our petals, go ahead and take a medium-sized steel ball tool. It's about the size of my petal. And I'm going to gently stretch the petal over and around the ball just to cup it, like so. Do that to all 5 petals. After you've cupped the petal, go ahead and grab onto either side and very gently stretch it, just so that it's not cupped too much. You still want the sides to come out instead of in towards each other. Now we're going to glue the 5 petals evenly around the center. And add a little bit of glue to the base of my petal. Then I'm just lining the base of the petal with the base of my stamen. I do 1 petal there, and then I'm going to do my 2 lower petals. I like to do my 3 petals first, and then I'm going to add the last 2 in on the sides. So you've kind of got a top petal, and then 2 bottom ones that are overlapping a bit. And now my next 2 are going to go in these spaces, and that's how I get my 5 petals evenly around the best I can. There's your finished flower. You can set that aside to dry, and we'll move on to making our bud. Take a 24 gauge wire again and a small strip of the fern extra fine crepe paper, and again we're going to wrap the top 2 to 3 inches of this wire. Just a reminder, you can use a white or green 24 gauge wire since we are covering it completely with crepe paper. Once you've wrapped that, take your 8mm ball, and there should be a hole on one side, and you can kind of just place the tip of your glue into that hole to open it up, and then add some white glue in there. And then go ahead and press the wrapped end of your wire into that hole. Next, you'll need 5 sepals, and you're just going to place a bit of glue on the lower half of the sepal, and then glue it around the ball so that the base of the sepal is just onto the wire. Then you're going to add it onto the ball, so half of the sepal is down on the wire, and the top half is coming up and around the ball. And you'll repeat this with all 5 sepals, going evenly around the ball. And that's your finished bud. Once you've completed that, you can also set it aside to dry with your flowers. And next, we're going to start adding flowers and buds together to begin building our branch. Next, we're going to make our leaves. You'll need a 24 gauge wire, and then the leaves that you've cut. Just need to add a line of glue down one side of a leaf half. You'll place your 24 gauge wire on top. The tip of the wire should be about 1/2 inch below the top of the leaf. You'll then add a line of glue on top of the wire. And then the second leaf half, just go ahead and lay that on top of the wire and line up the top of the 2 leaf halves. You'll then just need a strip of your fern crepe paper, and we're just going to wrap the wire below the leaf about 1 inch to 2 inches. Make sure you're stretching that crepe paper as you wrap, and just glue the end so that it holds. You then want to shape this leaf, and you'll need your curling tool. I'm just going to curl down and parts of the leaf up to give it a little bit of movement, like that. You can set it aside, and then we will start adding buds, flowers, and leaves together to build our branch. Okay, you should have 3 different leaf sizes that you've made, and they're all different shapes as well. We're going to take one of each size to start our branch and our flower groupings. For this first one, I'm going to take 3 flowers and 2 buds. I'm going to take these 2 buds, and starting with a strip of fern extra fine crepe paper, I'm going to attach these buds together about 1/2 inch below the buds. I will begin wrapping. And then I'm going to add a flower so it sits just a little bit below my buds, wrapping the strip of crepe paper around it. I wrap down just a couple wraps, and I'm adding a second flower and then a third flower just slightly lower. I'm going to tear this strip of crepe paper off, and now I'm going to begin wrapping with the brown espresso crepe paper to add my leaves. I'm bending my flowers out so they're not squished, and same with these buds. First, I'm going to take my largest leaf and place it up just a little bit higher than my buds. Taking my strip of espresso crepe paper, and I will add that leaf on just below that last flower. I'm going to add a second leaf. It's going to sit a little bit lower than that first larger leaf, and this is my medium-sized leaf. Make sure you're adding a bit of glue as you're wrapping to hold everything together. Next, I'm adding the smaller leaf, and I'm going to add it in front of, kind of up in those flowers here. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap down all of these wires about 2 inches and then just tear off the end. Now I'm just going to kind of arrange these leaves. So I've made just kind of one little offshoot of my branch, and you're going to use all of your leaves and flowers to make about 3 or 4 more of these. You can do some with just 1 bud and 2 flowers, or maybe just 1 flower and a leaf. And you just want a variety of little arrangements of all of these elements to make your branch. And I'll show you some examples. So now that you have a variety of little branches, we've got some with 3 leaves, a bud, and 2 flowers. This one just has 3 flowers and 3 leaves. This little guy just has 1 flower and 1 leaf. Then we have the one we built with 2 buds, 3 flowers, and 3 leaves. And then I've got another one with 2 leaves and 2 flowers. So just a nice variety of different combinations. And now we're going to build our branch out of all of these flowers. I'm going to start with the, 2 flowers and a bud. And I set all of these up here to grab. As you can see, I've left all of my wires, most of my wires long. Some of them are cut down to the 6 inches. But I'm going to begin by wrapping this down a bit more. Then I'm going to take my single flower and single leaf and go ahead and add it on. Wrapping down just a little bit further, and then I'm going to grab this, let's see, this one with my 2 buds, 3 flowers, and I'm going to add it. Angle it out a little bit in the opposite direction, making sure I'm adding some glue and then wrapping this nice and tight. All right, I'm going to kind of arrange these to see how my branch is looking so far. Pull it out and kind of bend the branch to give it more of an organic feel and some more movement. Hawthorn branches have lots of kind of bends and knots. And then I'm going to take my branch that has 3 flowers and 2 leaves, and I'm going to just add this single flower, a single leaf onto it. And I want to add this to my other branch that I've started. I want to add it down a bit lower down here, so I'm going to keep wrapping this, and then I'm going to add this piece in. I have this one smaller one left that I'm going to go ahead and kind of add right here. So I'm going to wrap down a little bit more before adding that. And with all of these 24 gauge wires you're using, you should end up with a nice thick branch at the end. So no need for thick stem wires or 18 gauge wire. And you can see there's a couple that are really long here. Just going to trim those lower few off to kind of even out some of these wires here at the bottom, and then just wrap all the way down. All right, once you're all finished, you can kind of arrange all of your little offshoots. Again, I like to kind of bend the wires a bit, make it look more organic. And there you have your finished flowering hawthorn branch. It's a lovely May birth flower. Thanks for crafting with me today.